There's a hidden creek under downtown Lexington, a creek that explains precisely why it was this frontier town that became the horse capital of the world, and not anywhere else. Long before Lexington, Kentucky had its reputation for thoroughbreds and bourbon, it was a small camp on the Kentucky frontier. Those early settlers had no way of knowing how the ground beneath their boots would shape the destiny of this land, its people, and its horses. In the 1770s, the land was still part of Virginia's western wilderness. As settlers moved along buffalo traces and fresh waterways, they often stopped where the springs were strong and the soil was rich. One of these early settlers was a man from Pennsylvania by the name of William McConnell. McConnell and his fellow frontiersmen surveyed land at a sinking spring near the forks of Elkhorn Creek. When a rider from nearby Fort Boonesborough brought news of the Revolutionary War at Lexington and Concord, the men decided to name their new town Lexington as a tribute. Frontier conflict delayed permanence, but newcomers kept coming to Lexington. Settlers constructed a blockhouse in 1779 near today's Main and Mill Streets. Fayette County seat followed in 1780, and the town was chartered in 1782. Kentucky officially entered the Union as the 15th state in 1792. Over the next century, the McConnell Springs site kept working. It housed a gunpowder mill during the War of 1812 era, then a distillery, and later a dairy farm. With a rapidly growing population, the frontier era began to fade, and more farms stretched across the bluegrass. Horses remained central to daily life, being used for travel, farm work, and hauling goods. As folks settled into their new homes, Lexington wanted a show. So the horses that plowed on Monday started racing for cheers and wagers by Saturday. Neighbors lined the commons for straight quarter-mile sprints, right down what's now South Broadway. Once racing on public streets was deemed inconvenient, Lexington opened its first formal racetrack in 1789. It helped turn a street pastime into a civic stage where money, rules, and pride could grow. Around that same time, a Revolutionary War veteran named William Whitley built an oval track near Crab Orchard. Horse racing was already popular in Britain, but Whitley wanted to give American horse racing a twist. His first change was to have the horses race on clay instead of turf. Legend holds he also ran the races counterclockwise in a symbolic break from English custom. As for the horses, the ground itself gave them an edge. More than 50% of Kentucky's surface is made up of limestone bedrock, which filters the water and enriches pastures. That mineral-rich Kentucky bluegrass is easy for young horses to eat and full of nutrients. Add the region's rolling fields and firm turf, and you get natural footing and plenty of room to move. Ideal conditions for developing thoroughbreds. Limestone underfoot, mineral-rich pasture on top, and miles of open ground. That's why Kentucky horses have developed a reputation of strength and speed. Lexington's location only helped that reputation spread. Roads and stage lines linked local farms to Kentucky River and Ohio River markets, sending bluegrass horses far beyond the state. As the horses traveled far and wide, the name Lexington traveled with them. Lexington professionalized the sport early. A jockey club formed in 1809, and in 1826, Henry Clay and other civic leaders organized the Kentucky Association. 2 years later, they opened a 1-mile dirt course near what we now call Race Street, putting purses and pride on the line. This helped establish Lexington as the epicenter of horse racing. The setting did the rest. Bluegrass limestone pasture and water built strong bone, and the short haul between farms and the track drew breeders and owners to base themselves here. By the 20th century, the horse business wasn't a side story anymore, but the association track was aging. The track had changed hands in 1890, limped through the Panic of 1893, and even faced foreclosure in 1897. Years of financial trouble, a fire in 1906, and a worn-out racetrack set the stage. Then, the Great Depression hit and crushed attendance. In 1933, they shut down for good. What happened next wasn't automatic. To many in Lexington, losing the association meant losing the town's racing identity. and the meeting place that tied track and farm together. So in 1933, they organized the Keeneland Association as a nonprofit model racetrack to grow and improve the sport right here in the Bluegrass. Rather than start from scratch in the Depression, they bought Jack Keene's partially built track complex on Versailles Pike. They chartered it as a nonprofit with proceeds going back to the track and the community. Keeneland opened to a 9-day crowd of over 25,000 people. The margin was only $3.47 in the black. But the stage was set, and Lexington kept the show. It carried historic stakes like the Phoenix, Bluegrass, and Ashland. The name Lexington traveled, first across the country and then around the world. Breeding operations expanded too, sending horses and know-how beyond Kentucky and into racing circles across the globe. Today, Keeneland still anchors Lexington's reputation as a national historic landmark with races every April and October. Beyond racing, it operates the world's largest thoroughbred auction house, drawing buyers and consigners from around the globe and keeping the Bluegrass at the center of the market. The marketplace stands on the very same ground that produces its stars, Bluegrass pasture over limestone, and it all flows back to a sinking spring on the Elkhorn, where a surveying party heard of the battles of Lexington and Concord and chose a name for this new settlement. For more stories from Kentucky history, check out our Kentucky Origins playlist and subscribe to KET on YouTube.